Steve, the football gods have gifted to us once again Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. Can Josh Allen get over the hump? He's lost to Mahomes 3 times in the postseason. Could it be 4? Oh, that would be brutal for Buffalo and Buffalo's fans and Josh Allen alike. But let's break this one down between these two guys. The good part is you were at the Bills and Ravens game. I was at the Texans and Chiefs game. So we can have an opportunity here to look at this game from a couple of different angles. When we get a chance to watch this game on Championship Sunday, Steve, you will be looking for what when that ball gets kicked off?
I don't believe that this player gets talked about enough.
Ooh, I like this.
Over the last couple of weeks and this year, this is a guy, the D tackle from the University of Houston, Ed Oliver, has become extremely disruptive. He throws off the timing. He's active in the pass game. He's active in the run game. At that Baltimore Ravens game against the Buffalo Bills, Ed Oliver has just shown week after week that he is a menace to all opposing A and B gap players. He can be active. He can shed the block. He's physical. He's also has a high motor and just continuously goes after the quarterback, disrupts the run game. And a D tackle that you just kind of say, hey, you look at Von Miller, you look at this player, you look at that player.
As well.
Rousseau. Yeah. If you talk to people up in Buffalo, it all starts with it up front. And Ed Oliver has been a guy who's really imposed his will. It started last year consistently, but he has just continued to pick up where he left off last year going into this year, and he was all over. Every time you saw there was something going on with Lamar Jackson where he was scampering away, it all started with number 91 getting in the backfield and getting around his guy or going through his guy with strength and power or finesse, and I don't think he gets a lot of credit.
I love that. I love that we started off with somebody like that because that actually ties a little bit into something I wasn't planning on talking about, but I had heard this when I was in Kansas City. We really saw this team be a run team offensively in Kansas City early, right? We saw it at the end of last season with Isaiah Pacheco really carrying a big part of this offense. We saw all the carries he had at the beginning of the season, and then he breaks the leg. And what have we seen since he came back, Steve? Like, talking to some people in Kansas City, maybe he's still recovering. Maybe a little of the burst isn't back yet. I mean, his last 3 games, 9, 6, and 5 carries each. I mean, like he's not getting utilized the way we saw at the beginning of the season before the injury. You look at Ed Oliver and what you're saying, can the Chiefs run the football physically in the middle? What they're doing is they're riding the hot hand of Kareem Hunt. Like Hunt was, he was running on one leg when Pop came back. And then I was told this like 20 plus days of rest was huge for a guy with a lot of tread on the tires like Kareem Hunt, right? And so you saw him go out there, run the ball a little bit more physically, and they leaned on him a little bit more. But does Ed Oliver and that defensive line kind of slow down the run the way a really good defensive line like the Texans did when we watched them slow down the run? What did the Chiefs run for? 50 yards in that game. They rushed for 50 yards in that game. So can this defensive front be able to impact the run game and then alter maybe what Kansas City wants to do in terms of balance a little bit? That's interesting. To me, what I got my eye on is this position group. The inside linebacker on both teams.
Ooh.
Nick Bolton for the Chiefs.
Ballin'.
Matt Milano in the middle of the field in his return.
Both of those guys are balling.
Big time. And I think both are really important in this game, Steve. I think really important for a couple of reasons. One, the way both quarterbacks carry the football. We know Patrick Mahomes and the way he is a rusher with the football in the postseason compared to the regular season. His mentality changes on how he runs the football. I've talked to him about it. He's not sliding a whole bunch. He looks to maybe run more in the postseason. Does that spy type of play that Matt Milano has to do against Pat and what they want to do in terms of containing the middle of the field? Travis Kelce's part of that. What do they do in the middle of the field? What does Milano do? He did a great job against Lamar. A great job against Lamar. They didn't get overly aggressive. I think that's part of what you're bringing up with Ed Oliver too. That whole D-line, that whole front, like oftentimes they didn't let Lamar escape a whole lot out wide. Milano really played that role really, really well. So his play in the middle of the field, I think, is going to be huge. And then Nick Bolton on the other side, who you said ballin'. Like, I was on the sideline before that game against Houston, and it was like, we don't even want to think about life without Nick Bolton. He's a free agent after this year. Like, he runs the entire defense, unbelievably smart. They believe he has a photographic memory. He communicates so well. All of that is extremely important. Nick Bolton dissecting some of this stuff, Steve, with that run game of Buffalo, right? With James Cook, and then with Josh Allen running the football himself up the middle. Like, I just think both of these guys controlling their defense, controlling the middle of the field is going to be extremely important. And so I'm watching both of those guys because they could be not the splash play of this game, but oftentimes where 3rd and 3 ended up being actually like 3rd and 7 because they came up and made a play, and now the drive has changed. I think those guys are maybe that position to me is so fascinating too because it's valued so differently in every building. There's some teams that like just it's not a valuable spot in terms of assets, in terms of pay. There's other teams where they value the position. I know scheme dictates that. But I think with both of these guys, they're really good at it, and they could be game changers against these two dual threat, you could almost call them, dynamic quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to just see what happens and who is able to contain who and what do they do without being able to have these splash plays. I believe a lot of the fans are going to believe it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's just going to be a low-scoring game.
I could see that.
The Kansas City Chiefs, everybody talks about they're not as explosive. They don't do this well. They don't do that well. The Kansas City Chiefs have the ability to morph and play whatever type of football game they can play. And the Buffalo Bills have adapted to the same thing. The question is going to be who makes the first mistake. And Baltimore Ravens made the first big mistake on the interception. And the Bills benefited from that. I'm not sure, but I got to throw my hands up. Who the heck knows? Somebody's going to make a mistake at the wrong time. The question is just going to be who and how do they take advantage of the mistake? Do they come out with 3 points? Is it a 3 and out? Do they score a touchdown? You also know, I think what they say, and the Buffalo Bills are favored by 55% of walking in there and beating Kansas City because of just the explosiveness and the Josh Allen effect and the Cook. But I would say that I'm expecting, and I would expect that the Kansas City Chiefs will apply some pressure and make a receiver outside of Shakir and Kincaid beat them. And that's going to be the chess match that we're going to want to see. How do they get other players, not just a 4-yard first down, not the 13-yard first down, but having a receiver come out outside of those 3 guys, Cook, Kincaid, and Shakir. Where's Amari Cooper? Where's Keon Coleman? Where does Matt Hollins? Where are these guys at? Can they put up 50 or 70 yards receiving is going to be the real question.
I love that because who balled out against the Houston Texans? Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie played outstanding.
He did.
But how was Houston built with all their injuries? We got Nico Collins.
Yep.
And then we got massive drop-off. Let's try to get the ball to who? Dalton Schultz, maybe? Let's try. I mean, they were
didn't do a
limited.
good job of trying to get him the ball either. He was held. A lot of times he was slowed down because he had to help Chip before he can get out.
Exactly. That's a great point. And so I do think what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me because I think the Bills are built very differently than the Houston Texans. It is very much so, and you and I have talked about this on the show, the ball is not forced anywhere. It used to be, I got to kind of wait for Stephon Diggs to get to open. Josh wants to go there with the... Now it's, I can go anywhere I want. There's no pressure to put the football anywhere I want. He could if he wanted to. There's Trent McDuffie. Okay. I'm dropping back. I might go this side. He's very diplomatic with the way this offense works and the ability to go in a lot of different places. So that's what I'm curious about. How does Josh keep playing that way? Because I think it's different than previous times when he's gone into Arrowhead and had to play against this team because he's not having to do so much on his own. He's able to stand back there and maybe protect the ball a little bit better, distribute it just a little bit, and play a little bit more of of an in control, on time type of football than we've seen maybe in some of these past AFC Championship games against each other. So I think that part of the matchup is to me very interesting. And then the other part of it is the Bills really do, I don't want to say rely on turnovers, Steve, but you mentioned it, mistakes and turnovers. They seem as a defense to they do a good job of forcing them for sure.
Yeah, they do.
But Kansas City, man, I think this is 8 straight games as a team they haven't turned the ball over.
Yeah.
What's going on? James Palmer here, and let's get real for a second. You see the underdog graphics flying in and out of the show 89 with Steve Smith and myself. Well, you're probably wondering, what are these? Well, what they are is it gives you an opportunity to participate, to start playing. You can use the promo code UD89. You can scan the QR code and you can start playing instantly. Dive right in and you can win $1,000 bonus cash like that. You just got to pick higher or lower. So remember, scan that QR code. Use that promo code UD89. What we do here at 89, we give you analysis, we give you breakdowns, we give you the news. We love that you're here. We love that you're watching us and hanging out with us. But now, when you do this, you get an opportunity to find out if we actually know what we're talking about. I think this is 8 straight games as a team they haven't turned the ball over.
Yeah.
That's to me, we talked about going into the game against Houston, a team that can turn the ball over in bunches as a defense, and Kansas City didn't turn it over. I think that part might be a big aspect of this, and does Josh Allen and company capitalize on it? I think that would be huge. And the other part, do you know DeAndre Hopkins did not have a catch in the divisional game? 1 target. Yeah. Finding answers in that passing game, we saw Kelce go off. I'm interested to see what Buffalo can do.
I'm not sure Buffalo's secondary is as strong as the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that's
Houston
probably right.
Texans secondary is a little bit stronger. I would say, though, the Buffalo Bills, led by defensive coordinator Bobby Babich, who's doing a great job. He was secondaries coach and DB coach and assistant DB coach when I was in Carolina. To see the way his defense, how he's timing up the blitzing, how he's running a lot of zone and man coverage, doing a lot of different things to confuse the opposing quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes, he is not Jesus where he's unable to be tricked. But Andy Reid also knows what he's going up against as well. So the cat and mouse game is gonna be in a full effect. And I love what Josh Allen said about the matchup against Lamar Jackson. I've never really heard a quarterback put it so plainly. He's like, for the first time ever, he said, I've never really played against the opposing quarterback. I always play against the defense. And I've heard it before, but you generally don't hear it like that, where it was just like, he's just like, look, y'all are making this into this. But being at that game too, I noticed that the Buffalo Bills are not hiding the fact, if they believe just running a play with Josh Allen is better than passing a football, they don't hide it. They're going to do it. And that's pretty impressive, because there's times I'm like, they're running literally, they're doing a drop back pass, but it's designed 100% for a running play. And I just want to see what Spags is going to do to be able to slow that down, but also to be able to contain Josh Allen, because he's going to get his design runs, but keeping him inside of the pocket is where you can limit the explosive plays, because once Josh Allen gets outside of the pocket, he can run or he can throw the football down the field, and that can hurt you as well.
That's a great point. And that's why I brought up the linebackers. I mean, I got a text from an executive with another team while the wild card game was going on between Buffalo and Denver, and they were like, these Broncos linebackers can't hang, man. This is embarrassing in the middle of the field. What we've talked a lot about, that's where Buffalo can kill you. So can Nick Bolton and the other guys, they have a deep linebacker group there, impact the run game that you mentioned with James Cook, impact the run game with Josh Allen, the way he runs the ball, like you mentioned. And then the last part that I want to bring up is, this is a really good offensive line in Buffalo.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good offensive line. It's not, it's a very different group that defensive line from Kansas City's facing from what they faced last week in the Texans.
Yeah.
Gave up 8 sacks and have had issues all year, compared to this group that has been healthy and playing together and been playing well. The last thing I want to bring up to you, and this just popped in my head and I find it fascinating. There's 4 teams left. I feel like 3 of the 4, and this is the most interesting part, 3 of the 4 have a borderline cheat code on 3rd and 4th down, 3rd and 4th and short. Josh Allen, the way they're running the QB sneak on that, it's almost a given. We know about the tush push in Philadelphia. It's almost a given. And I don't think there's a better quarterback on 3rd and 4th down in the NFL, if you look at the stats, than Jaden Daniels. But the Chiefs are outstanding on 3rd down. But 3rd and short, Andy Reid, since the dislocated kneecap, has refused to ever run Mahomes on a QB sneak.
We were at that game together, too.
We were.
You remember?
Yeah, I missed the entire game. I just stood outside the Chiefs' locker room waiting for information.
Ear hustling.
I was hustling, man. I was stalking the Hunt family, stalking Brett Veach, anybody that could help me out.
You were stalking
Pat's dad.
You were stalking Dad, yeah. And I was over there, pessimistic Paul. I was over there. He's done. He's done. You remember?
Little did we know the dude wanted to try to come back into the game. Like he asked if he could play still. And so they're a little more traditional. Not to say Andy Reid doesn't get in his bag, right, and do a variety of things on 3rd and short stuff. I just find that kind of interesting, the way these teams in those tight yardage moments are going to be huge in both these games, and I think really big in the way Josh Allen has played in those. The way they've moved the stick, specifically in the red zone too, has been outstanding. I think this is a different Bills team than in years past, Steve, that has faced the Chiefs in the postseason, and I think that's going to be the most interesting part about this.